Gurus, willkommen in einem neuen video. Welcome to yet another video, in this case part 8 of my Star Trek TOS timeline series of videos. In this video I'll be covering the evolution of civilizations in Star Trek. Within Star Trek there is a minor trope where civilizations seem to evolve into a non-corporeal form. This tends to have many common steps, and in some cases it fails. Let's discuss the process civilizations follow in order to become non-corporeal. The first step is that when a civilization decides to transition to a non-corporeal form, they retreat to a single planet. For example, the Thasians occupy only a single planet, and they possibly achieved their transition recently, several hundred years ago. They had space capability for a significant period of time, so they probably had a multi-system empire at some point in their evolution. The Organians as well also seem to only occupy a single planet as well, even though they seem to be quite advanced. While the providers had not fully achieved a non-corporeal form, as they still required a brain case, but nonetheless they were certainly going in that path, and they seemed to only occupy a single planet. Trelane and his parents represent some form of pure mentality, perhaps they are Q. They seem to occupy no planet, so may represent a very advanced form of a non-corporeal civilization. So, in this case, they do not fit into this scheme, or at least I lack information to let me know if they occupy one planet or more than one planet or no planets. Some races fail this transition, such as the race on the planet, which I call Sargon, and which I believe are the Cedars. Nonetheless, they did retreat to a single planet before failing their transition. Some races are on their way, but have not fully achieved this transition, such as the Metrons. I'm not certain of this, but it appears to me that they are in some form of leave-me-alone navel-gazing stage. They are also on a single planet. The second trope is some of the non-corporeal races can adopt a physical form, such as the Organians and Trelane's race, while others cannot, such as the Thasians and the Providers. It seems that the ability of non-corporeal life to form a physical body takes time to develop, as the Organians and Trelane's race have been non-corporeal the longest and can achieve this. The Thasians have only just become non-corporeal and cannot manifest physically, while the Providers have not moved from the brain case stage yet. One big unknown is how long does it take to move from a physical to non-corporeal form, and what are the steps on either side of this process? The first step is the race retreats to a single planet, which implies population drop. This could be caused by increased lifespan or even boredom or something I'm not aware of, but it is the first stage. The inhabitants of Sargon or the Cedars did the same things, even though they were supposed to have colonised the galaxy. We can assume the Metrons may well have retreated back to a single planet eons ago as well. It's even possible that the bicoloured race may have just entered this stage as well. They were very advanced, had spacecraft, had mental powers, were on a single planet and had a very long lifespan of at least 50,000 years, if not more. A race such as this should have been on many planets and perhaps were, but as their population dropped, powers increased and their lifespan increased, they retreated to a single planet. In this case, when they all assembled on a single planet, they discovered half the population were the mirror image of the other. This may have been a rare mutation in the past, but now represents half the population and may have precipitated this Fernie great filter very early for their race, resulted in them destroying themselves. The next stage takes a long time, possibly up to 1 billion years. During this stage, the inhabitants slowly move to a brain case existence. I also suspect before they move to a brain case state, they develop increased mental powers, and only when they've achieved a certain mental power do they consider this brain case stage viable. The Cedars moved to a brain case stage far too early, as it was in response to them destroying themselves. Thus, this is more a survival attempt rather than any new stage in evolution. Clearly, some form of great filter, like a Fernie great filter, exists during this process. Sargon claims this when their minds become so powerful, they feel they are gods. I expect this occurred when the race developed great mental powers. So, like similar to the race in Forbidden Planet. The The Cedars obviously failed this test and destroyed themselves. An example of this Fermi filter is when Michael gained superpowers in Where No Man Has Gone Before and was unable to mentally handle it. He basically went mad and was a threat to all those around him. Another example is Charlie in Charlie X, who also gained superpowers and was unable to control himself. While he did not go mad, he certainly abused his powers constantly. In Plato's Stepchildren, the survivors of Sandrahar gains a very mild version of the mental superpowers of races ascending to a non-corporeal form. Because they gain this power the easy way, they simply could not handle it and just can't help but abuse their powers. This is a common sci-fi theme right across the board. Apollo in Who Mourns for Adonis also has this superpower. While he did not abuse these powers in any major way, he still liked being king of the castle. In the end, he decides to follow his fellow travellers, presumably to go to a place to contemplate his navel and eventually be moved into a brain case. The interesting point here is Apollo had this power because of some new organ in his brain. Perhaps this is a step all the civilizations who wish to move to a non-corporeal life form follows. Once you contemplate your navel long enough, evolution creates a special organ in your brain which gives you great mental powers. The Telosians may be undertaking this path as well, as they also have a form of mental powers, although in this case they have no ability to manipulate physical powers, so it's either a different offshoot or it's the very early stage of these mental powers. Once a race has moved to a fully non-corporeal form, they initially cannot manifest physically. They can move through the galaxy in special spacecraft, as we can see here with the Thasian spacecraft, but they can't manifest into a physical form in order to give what Charlie wanted, which was some sort of physical affection or relationship. Eventually, and how long this takes I have no idea, they can physically manifest as the Organians could. In this case, they still seem to stay on a single planet, so I expect most of their mental energies are expended doing non-corporeal things, with only a small part doing physical stuff. So why bother spreading out physically? Now we come to my most controversial theory. If civilization moves in this process, then there must be a truly huge number of non-corporeal life forms. But we don't see that. It could be we simply have not explored the galaxy enough, but I suspect these non-corporeal life forms start merging into a single uber non-corporeal life form. After all, why would they not do this? If they've achieved some sort of mental non-corporeal godhood, everything is possible. This could be Q. I could be wrong, but I think this is a nice theory to explain why the galaxy isn't filled with non-corporeal superminds wandering around doing whatever Q does normally. And so we come to an end of part 8 of my Star Trek TOS timeline, in this case covering the evolution of civilizations. The episode scripts can be found using the URL shown. Alle guten Dinge kommen zu einem Ende.